Hey all. Here we are. What is this, day 5 since the surgery?
Yes.
There you go. Get a good look at that. So as we had talked about before the surgery, and sort of invited questions, and you obliged with a bunch of questions, so thank you. But first off, before we even start, I should say thank you for the well wishes for my recovery. And I guess that's the first question we'll talk about. But before we get started, I of course had the most disappointing new guitar day ever when this arrived the day after surgery, this J45, which I haven't been able to play. But I'm going to keep this on my belly. Because otherwise you're just staring at my cast. At least you have something to look at. So we went through some of the questions. I don't know how many we have, but we're going to go through as many as we can before we get bored, or you get bored. And my lovely assistant is with us again to... this is my wife in a nutshell. We went through questions, and she categorized them by topic area in a spreadsheet. Okay.
I can't help it.
This is my life. Okay, so
I like organization.
We're gonna start.
Which is why this room just drives me nuts.
Yes, it is a little bit of a disaster. But we'll start with, I don't know what order you got them in or what categories, but start with the one about the surgery. Start with that.
How's your recovery going?
How's my recovery going? Slow. It's going slow. It really hurts like hell, and there were some people who gave some helpful thoughts on recovering from this, because I know other people have had it, and even some medical people who were saying, make sure you do what the physical therapist tells you to do and stick with that. That's good advice, and I am sticking with it. It hurts like hell every time you do those stretching things and every visit I have. But it's getting better, and we'll just see how long it takes. I don't know I've got doctor's appointments lined up for follow-up and all that, so I'll find out more about when I can. This is the first one I want to play, the J45. But we'll see how long it takes. But recovery's going, I guess, on schedule, just as we thought. It does hurt a lot more than I expected.
But not more than what they said it would.
No, they were pretty honest about what to expect. So
and your physical therapist says you're doing great.
I'm doing better than I'm ahead of schedule on the PT side of it. So, but I'm just gonna have to go with I'm not dictating the speed of the recovery. This is. So I'm along for the ride, and I'll see how long it takes. But going well, and the Percocet does help. I'm not going to lie, it helps a little bit. But you have to be thoughtful about when you take it, like an hour before a physical therapy session. You got to preemptively take the pain medicine. I learned that pretty quickly. But going well, and we'll get back to music shortly, I hope. Next question.
Next question. Do you listen to newer music?
Oh, these are these in any order or anything? Or are you just rolling?
I'm just rolling.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Can I go now?
Go. You can go.
Do you listen to newer music?
This is her life.
Do you listen to newer music, and if so, what?
I do not listen to newer music, I'm afraid, because it sucks mostly, frankly. Plus, there's so much music, there's so much of the catalog of music up to now that I'm still haven't learned how to play or really appreciated. So there's if they stopped making new music tomorrow, there would be lifetimes of music to listen to and enjoy. So I don't really listen to a whole lot of new stuff. However, having said that, I mean, does J.D. Simo count as new music? I guess that does. So Josh Turner, they probably count as new music. So I listen to that stuff, but like in terms of like if the Stones put out a new album, do you care? No, I don't really care. I heard Paul's new album. I don't really care about it. It's not really vital music anymore, and that's okay. I'm not depressed over it, but no, it's all about the beat now and the sort of rhythm of the lyrics as opposed to melody and stuff that I really enjoy. So I don't listen to a whole lot of new stuff. I'm old.
You said it. What strings and guitar picks do you use?
What strings and guitar picks? A lot of people ask that, and I'll tell you what. Oh, I'm going to show you what I just got. I buy strings online. I just bought a boatload of these for acoustic. They were the right price. I buy them in a pack of, like 12 of these at a time. Right, I just bought a bunch of these for electric, GSS boomers, 9s. Sometimes I go 9, sometimes I go 10. It's just a question of mood, mostly. But I'm not loyal to any brand. I'll go on eBay or Amazon and just buy a pack of 12 packs of strings or whatever I can find that's fairly reasonably priced. But I don't get into that. For picks, I'll go on to eBay and buy a whole mess of these. Or if they have Led Zeppelin on them, I'll buy these. I don't really care about those details, frankly, and if you hand me a guitar, I don't care what strings are on or what picks, I'll play it. I'll get something out of it. I don't obsess on that stuff, sorry. That's probably not very useful advice, but I don't really care.
Do you do your own setups?
For most of the stuff, I do my own setups. I get kind of, someone had commented on asking a question about the J200 and noted correctly, I think, that it sounds like it's sort of a little, just slightly buzzy. And is that part of the inherent tone of a 200? Or, not really, but it's because I get lazy. And like a maple body guitar, that thing is massive. And it's got like 15,000 square feet of maple on it, which is very sensitive to changes in humidity, which means changes in season. So I used to seasonally adjust it, and I've gotten out of the habit of doing that just because I don't have time to do it. So it gets buzzy certain times of the year. I would adjust it in the fall, and then I would adjust it in the spring. I used to be on top of that stuff. I'm not anymore. But yeah, if something is out of whack, I'll try to do it myself. But if it's like on the Guild, the saddle exploded when I was playing it.
Oh yeah.
Just a few days ago, or before the surgery, and so I got to make a new bridge saddle. So I'll do that stuff myself. But if it's something like I'm not doing neck resets or anything like that myself. No.
Next. Do you remember your biggest aha moment playing guitar?
Biggest aha moment? Well, I remember, yes, I do. I don't know if it was the biggest, but it was a big one.
Okay.
That, and I've done a video like this, on this. But that idea that you could just do like a minor pentatonic, you could do a solo on between 2 frets on 2 or 3 strings, 2 strings and 2 frets. And that was a big moment, because I was like, okay, so you don't have to play up here if you don't want to, and I don't want to. So I'm very much a middle of the fretboard kind of guy, and my older brother had a Fender Lead 2, which I think they're making again now, or reissuing or whatever, and so I did my own version of multi-tracking. So I would take a little Radio Shack recorder, record just the do 12 bars of that, or do 60 bars of it or whatever, do a few minutes worth of it. Then I would put that in the stereo and play it back. Then I would record. I just take the Radio Shack thing and record my soloing over the top of it, so you'd get both on the recording. And I was like, I'm like Les Paul. I just invented multi-track recording. but being able to do that and solo, with myself, that was a pretty big moment of, okay, I can take the 4 notes that I know, and then I can add 2 other notes to it. Then I can solo on that. Then once I got those 6 down, I can add 2 more. And I was really doing it, adding notes to the box, 2 notes at a time. And then before you know it, you're spanning the fretboard.
Next question. It's two because they're kind of related. They're both kind of about your channel. Where can I get a James t-shirt? And how is it possible that you're not offering a premium account for your lessons?
Okay. We lump those together because they're kind of the same question. If you want a James t-shirt, you gotta have that one that I wear. My brother got for me as a gag for Christmas. He just ordered a one-off shirt. I'm not into merch or swag or any of that stuff. That's for other people. That's not what our relationship is. It is not a financial arrangement. So I don't know where you can get one. Have one made.
So you'll have to make your own.
Yeah, make your own. Because I'm not interested in that. What's the second question?
How is it possible that you're not offering a premium account?
Because this is not a business. It's if I do that, this becomes work, and we all know I hate work, and I don't want this to become a job, another thing I have to do. I do it when I feel like it. I do the stuff I want to do. I am my own little boss. I throw it out to the universe. If people like it, great. If they don't, I'm not losing any sleep over it. I don't care. It's not costing me money. If, oh dang, I had spent all that time on that video and nobody watched it. I don't care. It's out there. So no, I'm not into monetizing my brand or whatever that phrase is. I don't want to be another Marty. The universe doesn't need another Marty. We already have one. He's good at what he does.
You can never
More
have
power
too
to
many
Marty.
Martys. All right, next question. What are your top 3 favorite music documentaries?
Documentary. That's a good one. Well, I mean, the Beatles anthology thing is sort of the gold standard. That was really well done. Documentaries. Song Remains the Same is not really a documentary. It's lousy anyway. I think that Filth and the Fury, that Sex Pistols one, is pretty well done. And I think Crossfire Hurricane was also pretty good. And the way they did Crossfire Hurricane so that you only hear their voices. Because seeing Mick Jagger on film in 1965 doing Satisfaction and then cutting to Mick at 72 years old or whatever it is, that is just jarring. And they didn't do that. They only had their voiceover. So you sort of get this... You don't get the sense that Satisfaction is a long time ago. So I thought that those 3 are I think pretty well done. I still would the Hendrix one, the Jimi Hendrix, a film about Jimi Hendrix. That's pretty good. Those are Kids Are Alright is another gold standard one. If there were a Zeppelin version of Kids Are Alright, that would be awesome.
How do you dial in tone on your amp?
I don't really, and that's the honest answer. The actual knobs on okay, I've been playing the last couple of months that PV Classic 50 and nothing else. Before that, I did 7 years of the Viper. I gotta stop.
I know.
The temptation is to use this arm.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I used that Viper 100 before that. But I don't change the knobs at all except that one, a gain knob. I'll turn that up or down occasionally. Everything else literally stays static. I don't dial in anything. If you want to get a bunch of, for me anyway, if you want to get a bunch of different tones, you buy a bunch of different guitars. The guitars, a Les Paul, if I want a Les Paul sound, I'm going to plug in a Les Paul. If I want a Strat or Tele sound, if I want a 345 hollow body, if I want a Gretsch sound, I just pick those guitars out. I don't mess with the amp. The guitar does the tone work and the fingers, not the amp. So I don't really care about it. So I know that's another disappointment to the tone freaks out there. I'm not a tone freak. I don't care about that.
You care about tone.
Well, I care that it doesn't sound like a flock of seagulls or something. But I don't. If I'm okay with it, and I like the sound. I love the sound of this PV Classic 50. It's way too loud for what I need, but I don't sit there and fiddle. Now for this next one, I got to start from scratch and dial it. No. It
Yeah.
stays where it is.
I don't think you have the patience for that. You're not a fiddler.
No, not at all. No. That's the reason why I never took lessons. Don't have
Next
the patience.
question. What kind of electric and acoustic guitars do you recommend?
Again, this will probably be a disappointment, but my recommendation is to, one, buy what you can afford. Try to buy a guitar that is suitable for your skill level. It doesn't make any sense for someone just starting to play to buy a D45 or a J200. There's no shame in owning less expensive guitars, especially now where the brand name doesn't mean as much as it used to. Because overseas, they're making Indonesia and China, they're making pretty darn good guitars these days. So I would say buy what you can afford, but also, you know, if you want to play Hendrix, I wouldn't buy a Les Paul. That's just me. I would buy a Strat. So with whatever style of music you want to play, try to get a suitable guitar for that. You know, if I wanted to play a bunch of Beatles, this is not a bad guitar, J45. Although I'd probably buy the studio version or the cheaper version of this. But yeah, just try to match the guitar to what kind of music you want to play. Disappointing answer, I'm sure. I'm sure people want to know, I would buy this guitar at this price from this seller. Having said all of that Fender Player Series, that Mexican Fender series, those Strats, in terms of value, that might be the best value in guitars today. You could take a Mexican-made Strat, a new one, better than they were 10 years ago, way better. And you could play Madison Square Garden with that guitar, and absolutely nothing wrong with those. So they are a budget conscious line of guitars, and they're outstanding.
Do you have perfect pitch?
No, I don't know or understand what perfect pitch is, but I'm sure I don't have it.
This is an interesting question, because I don't think you have perfect pitch either, but I think you have, I think it's called relative perfect pitch or something like that, in that you can identify on the guitar chords, and you can hear a piece of music, and
well,
you know.
If you know popular music or rock, you know, blues-based rock music, classic rock.
Because when you restring a guitar, I
can get to E.
You can get, and
without having to
it's
hear
fairly in tune when you're ready to go. So
I can do that.
That's
but you know what that is? This is so ridiculous. I have heard Black Dog. I have heard that so many times. I can find an E on a guitar. I can find an A because I've heard, I can find a G because I've heard Blackbird so many times. I can find D because I've heard the intro to Mother Nature's Son 1,000 times. But the other part of it is if you've heard classic rock enough, there is a formula to these things.
Oh.
You know, when you're to start in G, well, how many places can you possibly go in a pop song from G? You're going to go to E minor, you're going to go to C, you're going to go to D or B minor, maybe to A. That's really it. So once you've tried those things, you can find your way pretty easy.
Next question is, how do you afford guitars?
There is great concern and curiosity over my finances. I don't get it. But I will say this. The short, simple answer is, if you want to have a zillion guitars and not be too concerned about buying guitars, don't have children. That's the key. If I had kids, it would be utterly immoral to own expensive guitars. I wouldn't do it. I would have the Epiphone, and I would be damn proud to have it. I would not be ashamed to have an Epiphone J45. that's my advice. I'm not saving up for anybody's college. I'm not putting braces on. I'm not. I don't have to sign up for the soccer league or any of that nonsense. We're self-contained, and I'm living my life,
Yeah.
spending money.
We also both have full-time jobs, so.
Yeah, and if you have two incomes and no children.
And it goes back to only buy what you can afford.
Right.
When we were first starting out as a married couple, you
No, of course.
did not have all these
Yeah, no,
guitars,
you
and
work
you
your
did
way up
not buy.
I didn't buy the high-end stuff.
No.
But then again, don't forget, and this is more than just inflation, but in the 80s, you know, I could buy a Les Paul Custom for $300 in the local swap sheet, a 1972 Les Paul Custom. In fact, I remember that guy wanted $350 for a 72 Les Paul Custom, and he wouldn't go down to $325, and I walked away for $25 on a Les Paul Custom. But yeah, I've never sort of overshot my budget or my skill level, hopefully.
What's your favorite concert that you've been to?
Favorite would be Frampton on that, what was it, 2011 tour. I think that was 10 years ago. He did that 35th anniversary. That was just outstanding in every possible way. Loved it. Loved every second of it. A close second, we saw John Anderson on that little solo acoustic tour he did. Maybe that was 10 years ago. In a small theater, and it was just one of the most satisfying, pleasant evenings of music of my life. And I do dig that whole thing of just a guy and a guitar kind of show, and it was awesome. God, I wish there was a live recording of that show.
Do you have any pedal recommendations?
Pedal recommendations. I'm not a big pedal person, but I think too, if I were going to have only two pedals, assuming you have an amp that can give you a little bit of gain and you don't need a distortion pedal, a wah pedal is kind of essential. I have a Vox. I've had Dunlop Crybabies, and I've had a few different kinds before, but I do prefer the Vox. Morleys are also good, but the other one is a phase shifter. And I like Electro-Harmonic, Small Stone. MXR are great, but I'm just partial to an Small Stone phase shifter. Those are really the only ones that I would call essential.
What guitar have you always wanted, but you can't justify the cost?
Well, okay, there are vintage things. I'm not really into vintage guitars, so I would. There have been a few that I've had in my hands and thought about. There was a '59 J200 at Southworth Guitars in Bethesda, and I think he wanted $4,500 for it, which is at the time way out money. And of course, in my mind, I'm doing the math like, could I somehow swing that and justify it and still remain married?
And the answer was
And
no.
the answer was no. I remember at House of Guitars, this would have been around 87 or 88. They had just gotten in a 58 flame top, and he had it at $6,500, I think it was, which was like $1 million then for a guitar. But so there have been ones where, you know, it just for a fleeting moment you're like, there's any way can I sell everything I own? Can I sell my kidney? Yeah. Probably vintage things. When the one concrete example that is real life is when I bought the D41 after we sold our other house, and we made a lot of money on that house just because of the way real estate was,
Yeah.
you know, 15 years ago.
We're just lucky.
We just got lucky. But I was deciding between a D41 and a D45, and I couldn't justify the extra money for the 45 because it is an identical guitar except for a little bit of trim stuff. But that is one where if I could wind the clock back, I would have gone 45 for sure, because the values of 45s have, where the 41's worth more than I paid for it, but not like a 45.
Who inspired you to play guitar?
That would be my older brother, who has passed away. But he started playing in like, I don't know, 1979, 78 or something. And he took lessons. And he would come home and he did all that tapping. You know, that was when I was big. Van Halen was big. And he was pretty good, but I was like, we were roommates. And I'd be like, you know, a few weeks ago, he couldn't play anything. And now he picked it up fairly quickly. So I'm like, he's not smarter than me or more talented than me. If he can do this, I can surely do this. So the guitar would be sitting there. He kept it in the case under the bed when he wasn't playing it. And when he was gone, I would pull it out and I would, you know, try to fiddle with things. My dad, who was also a guitar player, my dad's one of those people who's musical, and if you hand him an instrument, he can get a song out of it in a few minutes. And so he always had acoustic guitars laying around. So I also was inspired by my dad, because we would go camping and stuff, and I always thought it was cool that my dad would pull the guitar out around the campfire and we'd all, you know, sing Hey Jude and stuff, and I was like, I want to be able to do that, you know. So probably those two. But in terms of the big players, Jimmy Page is the guy for me. That was the first album, the first new album I ever bought was In Through the Outdoor. I think it was the day it came out or shortly that week. And I heard it in the evening and I said, oh, that was just mind-blowing. I knew Zeppelin stuff before that. You know, you knew Stairway as a kid and you knew some of the music. But started to get into them around 77, 78. And then that album came out, and that was, even though it's a keyboard album. But so he did some of his best playing on that record, I think. So that was a big one.
How are we doing on time?
We're at 26. Keep rolling. We're having fun.
Is there...
All the diehards are still watching.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody else
Other
dropped
people
off.
dropped off about 20 minutes ago.
This is for the people in the club. You know, everybody else left 15 minutes ago.
Is there anything you suggest to have a successful and happy marriage?
And happy marriage. Well, one, marry the lady I married, but
Okay.
too late. You missed the boat on that. Marry a great, great lady. That's one thing. That sounds silly, but you have to find someone who is smart and funny in addition to being hot. Hot is great for dating. It ain't great for being married.
Okay.
So if you can ring the trifecta on those. But the one piece of advice I have is figure out how you're going to handle money before you get married. And we figured that out. We figured out she's really good at managing money. I'm not. So I have nothing to do with any of it.
I'm so good at handling money that you can now buy all these guitars.
She built the James Financial Foundation. Yeah, figure out money and how you're going to do it. Whether you're going to split things, you got to have some kind of system of who pays what bill or whatever. She pays all of them. I have no idea. I had to see when we did our tax stuff recently. I had to see what my actual income is. I didn't even know.
I don't even know what mine is.
But yeah, figure out money, because we've literally never had a cross word about money. And listen to your wife. If she says we can't afford something, you can't afford it. Don't push it. Go with the flow. That's it.
Is that it?
That's the gospel.
All right. What's your favorite version of Since I've Been Loving You?
That's a good question. Now, I think after they did it a couple of times on 75. After that, it became Cocktail Lounge crap. But 71. There were some really great ones, and I go back to Berkeley 9/14/71. Rochester was the 9/11 show. Berkeley 9/14/71, untouchable. The intro is missing a couple of notes where there's a splice in the tape, but that bootleg, the Going to California bootleg, fantastic.
Between your Gibson Custom and your Orville Custom, do you notice a difference?
Wow. Now, one thing is I had an Orville by Gibson, which is different from Orville, for starters. Orville by Gibson is just a level above. In fact, those are really Gibson guitars made in Japan for Japan under Gibson supervision with Gibson parts, American parts. A regular Orville is more along the lines of an Epiphone. Still a great guitar, but I got to be honest. I don't notice a whole lot of difference. Although that Orville, that white custom Orville by Gibson, that was the heaviest electric guitar I've ever held. It had to be 12 and a half, 13 pounds. That was heavy. But no, in build quality, I noticed no difference.
Has your guitar playing ever plateaued? And if so, how did you get past it?
Plateaued? I guess yes. A few years in, you get to the point where you're like, well, I know my minor pentatonic, what else is there? You know, and you kind of get in a little bit of a rut. But for me, the answer to that was tune to Dadgad and play some Celtic stuff and start playing styles of music other than the ones I learned on. Alternate tunings helped me a lot in terms of breaking through. Because it's like, okay, I know English, what other languages are there? That's the same thing with guitar tunings. You know, you get a working vocabulary of Spanish. That's like being able to have a working vocabulary of open G. So the getting out of it for me was trying different tunings and different styles of music that I didn't really grow up on.
How can we support you financially?
You can't. Because there's no need to. I'm doing all right.
There's no need.
Seriously, every people ask,
Yeah.
do you have a Patreon? No, I don't do any of that. I don't want your money.
People do it, and I think it's very sweet, actually.
It's very nice. It's great,
Yes.
and we have a thing, but I don't want that thing to be financial. I don't want money to enter into it. So thank you, but I'm okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Having said that, give to your local food bank if you want to do something nice and you feel like you have a karmic debt to pay, or support your local animal shelter. Right now, people are hurting and they're hungry. So if you want to throw $50 at your local food bank in the name of James, I salute you. But no, I don't need it or want it.
What's your favorite Led Zeppelin show?
I always go back. Well, okay. The cliche that I'll say is Berkeley 9/14/71, which is outstanding. However, I do like 3/21/75 in Seattle as a, that was sort of in the bloated period, but that is a stellar show, and now it's available in a recording that is literally perfect. Jimmy could release that tomorrow. So those are a few. Offenbach 73 is another hot, outstanding show. I like 10/9/72 from the Japan tour, the Stand By Me show. Those are just a handful. I like Texas Pop in '69 too. They were just so on fire at that. They were still trying to prove themselves then, and it wasn't a show, it was a concert, and that's different. It became a show starting around 72, where Jimmy was, performing. It was great, but it's different from 4 guys getting up there and just blowing your face off in '69.
What do you think of the quality of newer Fenders and Gibsons compared to the older ones?
Well, okay, I'm not a firm believer that new stuff sucks. In fact, this is brand new. This is a 2020 Gibson. We'll do a video on this guitar later some other time when I'm back in action. But there are great guitars to be had in virtually any era. I mean, everyone knocks the 70s. Guilds of the 70s are fantastic guitars. Some of the best they ever made. Are there dog Gibsons in the 70s and dog Fenders? Yes. In the 80s, you could get a 72 Strat for $200. Nobody wanted them. Those old tellies, they were just boat paddles. But today those are valuable just frankly because they're old, and because people my age now grew up with those guitars and they want to get them back. So I think there are some good stuff. I think Gibson is addressing some of its quality issues. I think Gibson's main problem these days is more a marketing issue than a guitar issue, where
Are you playing authentic?
that is what's
Sure.
wrong. That's what's wrong with Gibson today. The whole idea of play authentic, where they are obsessed on the brand, on the headstock, and players today, if they're not 52-year-old people like me, without kids who are just buying up whatever guitars they want, most people would rather buy a guitar that delivers value. It has a good sound, it looks great, and it doesn't cost an arm and a leg. Gibson thinks that everybody wants to pay for the name on the headstock, and they are wrong, and that's why they're failing. But does Gibson still make some great guitars? Yes, this is a good one. But do they make some dogs? Yeah, they do. I also think, though, that guitarists today are way, way, way too whiny and bitchy about quality issues. I mean, you watch videos on people, 10 things I hate about my new Les Paul, and they'll go and they'll find a little spot in here where there's a tiny, literally 1 millimeter on there where you see some glue on a gap or a tiny little thing, and they're like, this is outrageous for an expensive guitar. Players are so friggin' whiny. Do you think Jimi Hendrix went through and whined about the paint on the Strats that he played? Part of the problem is that guitar players just expect perfection. And the problem is, if guitars are truly made with passion and human hands, they are imperfect by design and by nature and by definition. So
Perfectly imperfect.
perfectly imperfect, exactly. That's it. That's one of the things I love about my 200. That's a 2001, I think. And I showed you on the other video, on the skunk stripe on the back, it's not quite centered up the back. It's just off by a hair. And it's imperfect, and that's why I love it. A human made that. And humans are not robots, you know. Stop whining about things. Buy a guitar you can afford that looks nice and gives the sound you want, and it has good action, and stop complaining about the quality of guitar.
If you could go back in time, what would you do differently in your early days of learning how to play guitar?
What would I do differently in the early days? Okay, not a lot, because I don't think I would have. Well, I don't know. It's hard to say. Would I have benefited from taking guitar lessons? I don't know, but I probably would have, from the start, I would have played more different kinds of music rather than going through the entire Led Zeppelin catalog and learning every album in order and then moving on to Stones or Beatles or something. I would have played country and western. I would have played, heck, if I could do it all over again, I would have gone the gypsy jazz route and not done popular music at all, probably. So I would have played more different kinds of music earlier on, probably.
We're going to do 2 more questions because that'll be 25.
More. Okay.
And then we can
good.
do more if people want it or if you want it.
Okay. We'll see.
And I'm getting hungry, so that's the real reason.
I've seen her get dehydrated. It's pretty gross.
Did you ever visit the UK? If so, where? And what were your impressions? It's a 3-parter.
Yes. So is this one question of the 2? This is one of the 2.
No,
Yes,
this is all 3 of
This is
one.
all 3 of them.
3 in 1.
I have visited the UK a bunch of times. London, of course. Been to Glasgow a few times, which I love. I love Scotland. We went up in the Trossachs, and just a beautiful, beautiful
You
place.
did.
I did.
I was not there.
And we did Canterbury
Mm-hmm.
a few years ago. I've done London a few times. We did Bath.
Mm-hmm.
Bath is just stunningly beautiful. I love England. I love English history. I love English culture. I love the music. In some other life, I lived in the UK somewhere, in Wales or something, a small village. I love it there. And they speak English. can't understand it, but they speak English.
Stop.
Oh, in Scotland, man, you should.
Oh, yeah.
It's like being in Germany or something.
Stop.
No, and I mean that in a charming way. Their accents are so thick, and they use different. Like, I remember that I couldn't get over it. People would call me Jimmy, and I don't know, what are you talking about? My name's not Jimmy. But that's just a thing. They call each other. They call people Jimmy.
Yeah.
Or at least
of course, there's some
that.
places in the U.S. it's hard to understand.
Exactly.
Right. Ooh. Last question for now.
For what? For this part 1.
Before lunch.
Yeah.
What guitar players do you watch on YouTube?
Ooh, good one. Good one. J.D. Simo. I'm a big fan. Monty Montgomery, although he's not touring as much as he used to. He doesn't do as much stuff, but another outstanding player. Matthew Scott. Look him up. He is one of the better young players that I've seen in a long, long time. And his channel is fantastic, especially if you're into vintage gear. I don't collect vintage gear, but I love looking at videos of vintage gear. And he does a ton of that. He's got some outstanding guitars. He buys sort of basket case, affordable vintage things, and then he restores them usually and puts them back into working order and gets the history back on track for the instrument. He's great. Josh Turner, another one that I really like. Those are a few. Alison Young, in terms of women musicians. She's not really a guitar player. She's a singer, but she plays uke and stuff. Just one of the most stunningly beautiful voices that I've heard. I watch everything that she posts. Of course, the well-known people, Rick Beato. I watch him. I watch Trogley. I hate the unboxing thing. I think that whole unboxing trend has passed me by, given I'm middle-aged and I don't get it, watching someone open a box. So I don't really watch those, but he does ones where he goes on Reverb and he says, let's just search through Reverb tonight and see if there's any good deals. And he just looks at guitar. So I like his channel. I just don't like the unboxing videos because I don't get it. But he's another one that I like. And Marty. I don't dislike Marty. I know nothing about him. People ask me about him all the time. I'm aware of him because I see that he's very popular. I'm not knocking him at all. I'm sure he's a fine guitar player, but he's just, to me, he's sort of just the cliched YouTube guitar guy. So I bring him up. No offense, Marty. I don't know anything about you. I'm sure you're a good guy.
In the YouTube
yeah,
world.
Exactly. Everybody's got their niche. I got mine.
That's right.
He and I are on parallel tracks. We are not sort of doing the same line of videos. So, all right. So that's it. 25.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We're gonna eat lunch. First, I have to apologize for the preposterous pink shirt, but with my shoulder, I can't get a shirt over my head, so I've been forced to wear button shirts, and I tried to choose the baggiest, biggest one that I had to get my arm through it. So I know people tune in for the shirts, so today's a letdown. We're gonna eat lunch and see what comes of this video. Back to music sometime. I do have a couple of thoughts for, I'll have the sling at least for another week. At least, more than that probably. So, but that doesn't mean I won't be able to play. I'm going to find out from the doctor, see what she says. But in the meantime, I've got a few other ideas for other videos that don't involve actually playing and teaching things. So just discussing music type stuff. So good luck, and we'll be back in action soon, I hope.